Hello, and welcome to Steve and Carrie's Holistic Buffet. I'm here in the garden today, Carrie.
You're there in the garden, and I'm in my kitchen as usual.
So, Carrie, what is our episode about today?
So our episode today is one that's been on our list for a while. And I thought after we've gone through some really difficult topics, it would be nice to sort of have a topic all about giving yourself a hug. Mm-hmm. So our episode is about self-compassion. And there are a lot of, I think, negative assumptions about self-compassion, especially because many of us who were raised in specific generations had parents who probably didn't understand the concept of self-compassion. Yeah. And you'll hear a lot, for example, of people say self-compassion is really just a bunch of bullshit. Because if I was self-compassionate to myself all of the time, I would just say things like, I'm having a really hard day today, so I'm just not going to work. I'm going to sit on the couch and watch TV all day. And if I was self-compassionate to myself all the time, my life would fall apart and I would never get anything done. Yeah. So what we're going to do today is set the record straight, and we're going to get into a basic definition of what self-compassion is. We're going to drill down into three main areas of self-compassion. And then we're going to talk about, once you understand it, how do you use it? And what are some tricks and exercises that we can do? And then, just to make things really exciting, Steve and I are actually going to go through the exercise live today, so you can have some specific examples of what self-compassion really looks like.
Looking forward to it. So let's do it. Let's get on with our main course.
There's a lot of really boring material out there about self-compassion. So Steve and I have combed through all of it to try to condense it into just the things you need to know. And we'll try to make it a little bit more exciting. Are you ready to do this, Steve?
Do it to me, baby.
Do it to you. So let's start with the basic definition of compassion, because I think we all generally know what compassion means, but let's put it into its truest form. Compassion is when you notice human suffering or someone failing or an imperfection that they have, and you have a desire to provide them with understanding and kindness. It is a desire to alleviate suffering. Self-compassion means that we're going to direct that towards ourselves. It means that you are aware and mindful that you're having your own personal suffering, that you're feeling some really strong emotions or feelings, and you provide yourself with the same sort of understanding and kindness that you would afford to somebody else. And I think, Steve, that we have all had moments where we have either said this or people have said it back to us, that we are far more compassionate to other people than we are with ourselves. And a lot of that has to do with our self-talk, which we're going to get into.
And I was going to say, to build on that, I think I've particularly the last 2 years and certainly the last year, we've touched on this a lot, about like during COVID, the last 12 months, I've been very conscious about looking after myself better, not just physically in my environment and all that sort of stuff, but mentally as well. And I don't even think, Carrie, I've been very conscious about practicing what we're going to be terming as self-compassion. I don't feel like I've gone through a discipline of doing it. I've just started to go, start to look after myself a lot better physically, and it's manifested, mentally too.
Yep. And part of that is also self-esteem. And I think that one of the things we'll do is we'll dig down a little bit into the differences between self-compassion and self-esteem. But the first step is that you're starting to be mindful of it. Yep. And I've heard you say a couple of times, God, I was so tough on myself the other day. So we'll dig into that a little bit as well. There's a couple things that self-compassion is not. Self-compassion is not having self-pity for yourself. Oh my gosh, this only happens to me and I feel so bad. It's also not self-indulgent, right? Self-compassion is not you saying, I've had a really hard day, so I'm going to fall down on all of my responsibilities that I have, not only to myself, but to other people, so that I can just be lazy and crawl into a hole, right, and ruminate. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into the three main areas of self-compassion. Okay. And we are going to repeat them more than once. There will also be follow-up diagrams and materials for you to look at after you have listened or watched this episode. So let's start with those three things. So we have self-compassion, which means self-kindness versus self-judgment. Okay. So you make a mistake, and instead of saying to yourself, gosh, I always get this wrong, it is speaking to yourself more in a loving way, by saying, I might have got this wrong this time, but I know that there's something I can do to change the outcome for next time. I think the most important thing about self-kindness and self-compassion in general is that the one requirement for making self-compassion work is you have to be mindful. If you're not mindful of the feelings and where you are, then self-compassion can't happen. You have to at least know where you are. We have to know and be able to recognize in a certain moment that we're suffering, we're failing, we're feeling inadequate, and we're realizing that imperfection is inevitable, right?
Okay.
The other leg, if we think about this like it's a stool, so we have self-kindness, and we're going to focus on that more than judging ourselves, is this concept of common humanity versus isolation. And what this has to do with is a lot of times when we are self-critical, we do it in a way where we feel like we are the only individuals in the entire world that are having this happen to us. Common humanity is a part of self-compassion, which you use to remind yourself that you are not the only person that this is happening to. It might happen it might feel that way, but really when you think about it from a world perspective, you're not the only one who drops a bowl of pasta on the floor. It's happened to so many other people because we're all messy. So the thing about common humanity too is that it brings in the good feels, because major movements and things that happen in the world all have to do with common humanity, right? So COVID's not happening to one person, it's happening to everybody. And we all bond together as a society to try and fix the problem. The other thing I can think of would be the Me Too movement, right? If there was one person who came forward and said, this is only happening to me, so I'm not going to go out on a big platform because it's only happening to me, the Me Too movement never would have occurred. But it was hundreds of women coming forward and saying, I'm not going to be in this anymore.
I think Black Lives Matter too, right? So that's
Black Lives Matter too. 100%. So there are amazing things that come out of thinking about things in the form of common humanity. The last leg of the stool, and the most critical one, I think, is mindfulness over self-identification. So Steve, let's dive in a little bit to self-kindness. And the good thing about self-compassion is that this is not a highly detailed and complex concept. There is no question that it is scientifically proven that when you practice self-compassion, you will experience enhanced personal motivation and feelings of safety. It's almost, self-compassion is almost like, or self-kindness is almost like you're going to embed a voice in your head that's like the most kind, supportive, wonderful friend you could ever create for yourself. So you want to remember that as you would speak to a good friend or a child versus as you're speaking to an enemy. And the reason that this is so important is because When we're suffering, our motor cortex kicks in and our desire to help comes out. But the way in which we do that can generate different types of hormones in your body. So let's talk about the second leg of the stool, mindfulness. Acknowledge and labeling your thoughts, but not reacting to them. And labeling means, giving the emotion a word: sad, angry, frustrated, but not judging the fact that you're feeling those, just recognizing what they are and then being curious. Mindfulness enables us to be with painful feelings as they are. This is the hardest part of mindfulness for me, Steve. I don't know if it is for you, but for me, when I have to acknowledge that I'm feeling really uncomfortable, I want to numb, because for some reason I've convinced myself that pushing off the painful feeling until another time will be good. Mm-hmm. Sitting with it is really freaking hard to do. Sitting with your painful feelings, which is not a comfortable thing to do, is something that we do because it provides you with the following. It actually enables a little bit of balance versus avoiding the extreme, because when we suppress and we don't sit with our feelings and we let them run away, then they become even bigger. All right, so let's talk about the third leg of the stool, right? Common humanity. The point of common humanity is that you recognize that everyone leads an imperfect life. And this might be more of a female thing than a male thing, Steve, but I can't tell you how many times I'll get together with girlfriends over dinner and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, did you see, Jill's Instagram feed? Like, she's just like living the perfect life."
And you can, you think through all of the myriad of rock stars and pop stars. And now, to like people like Simone Bliss and the tennis.
Simone Biles, the gymnast.
Biles, rather, yeah. And the tennis player. And a number of people in the Olympics now saying, "I'm not going to compete," or "I'm struggling with my mental health." And then the idiot pundits going, "Oh, well, you should just pull yourself together and get on with it." Almost like they can't possibly be like me, who struggles with my mental health or my confidence or my fear or sadness. They can't possibly be like that because they can hit a tennis ball really well, or they can jump really high with the basketball, or that kind of stuff. And I think, societally, things, we're starting to see more common humanity when we're saying, "Oh my God, that person with the perfect life, Simone Biles, the world's best, arguably the greatest of all time, struggles with their mental health." It's like, oh, well, that makes it okay for me to be like that too. Yeah. I think.
So Steve, let's talk now about how we can pull everybody into this so we can all practice it a little bit.
Yeah.
We're going to do a self-compassion exercise. So I'm going to just walk through the bullet points of what this exercise looks like. And then let's you and I each share something that maybe happened this week.
Okay.
So what we're going to have our holistic buffet community do is, for one day, you're going to just have a little notebook, a piece of paper, a pen, and keep it handy. Keep it in your purse if you have one. Maybe put it in a location in the house that you walk by, constantly. The bathroom. So every time you go to the bathroom, you can kind of think about what your thoughts have been in the last couple of hours and write it down. Your car. And when you notice that you are engaging in self-critical talk, which we know we all do all day long, just jot it down. It doesn't have to be a full paragraph, but just jot down what the critical self-talk was.
So a really good way of developing that self-compassionate voice is to think of an incident of something powerful that happened in your past and start to get in control of it and play with it. Now, we ran an exercise specifically to do that with our friend Emma, where I took on a guided visualization, a bit like some of the meditation stuff, visualization stuff we did a couple of weeks ago. And it was really amazing. We did the exercise with you too, Kerry. We'll talk about that in a moment. But here's our quick chat that we did with Emma. So we're joined by Emma, who a lot of you will recognize from being on the live stream. Thank you so much, Emma.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Now, I thought it would be particularly useful to have you on here for two reasons. One is because you're so amazing and open, and you have an open mind and open heart. The other reason is because you're going to be working in your new job with people who've offended, and of course, people who are in prison or former offenders have a very strong shame cycle, either about the crime that they've committed that got them there, the situation they're in, or whatever ingrained long-term shame caused them to then cause some kind of a distress and break the law. So we thought it might be quite useful. So are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. So this is just like the exercise, the narrated guided visualizations that we did a little while ago. All right. So I want you to begin, and if you feel more comfortable, and I probably suggest that you do this, it'll help you concentrate, but I'd like you to close your eyes. And just begin by getting comfortable in a nice, comfortable, relaxed position in the chair that you're in. And in your own time, when you feel comfortable, you can come back to present with your eyes open.
Oh, I did. My eyes were watering. When I say watering, I don't mean watering.
Of course. So look, it'd be really interesting, without going into the detail of the moment and what happened, everything else. What was the experience like for you, and any reflection on the sensation that you felt going through it? Yeah.
It was really good.
What's your feeling and experience about the memory now compared to what it would have been before, or what it was before?
That's an interesting question. I think the exercise itself, especially if you have something that is pretty traumatic, you might need to revisit it more than once.
Yeah.
So it's not a case of do this exercise and that's it done. So for me, I would say that because of the memory that I chose to work with, I'd probably need to go back and do it once, maybe twice more. Yeah. But I know from doing it this time, actually thinking about it now, the sharpness of it has dulled.
Yes.
And so, and I know that it will continue to do so, Yeah. So if I know that if I do it again, then it will go down another notch. And if I do it again, it will go down another notch again.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think that's one of the key things, one of the key objectives of the exercise, is to bring present and bring present experience and strength into that moment. And we take the power away from that moment, right? So we go, what do I know now? That person was wrong. It's their stuff. They were projecting onto me, and I don't need to bring that with me. That's not just about the way we visualize it. That's the way we experience it too, right? If I can control it, actually, this is telling my subconscious sending a little message, which is going, hey, you back there, I can be in control of this type of thing, right?
Absolutely.
Before we let you go, anything else you'd finally like to say before we thank you immensely for your contribution and participation?
Well, I'd like to thank you both very much for all your help so far. I've really enjoyed all of the episodes and the little extra bonus bits and bobs. And I'm so glad to be a patron.
And we can't tell you enough how glad we are to have your wonderful, beautiful, smiling face on all of the live streams. Whenever we see you pop up, we go,
Thank you for your time and for being part of our community.
Oh no, you're more than welcome. Honestly, it's an utter joy. It's just helping me. I can't even describe how much it's helping me, alongside the other things that I do outside of Holistic Buffet. The strides that I've made in the time that I've been a patron, basically. So thank you. Thank you for your time and your expertise.
Well, keep on keeping on, you wonderful human being, you.
Thank you.
Thank you, darling.
Thanks.
Bye, Emma.
All right, really great episode. Thank you so much, Carrie, for all of that research and hard work that you did. I know this is something that, through what you do therapy-wise and just your general interest has been a real passion subject for you. So thank you very much.
Growing up with zero self-compassion motivated me to want to learn all about it. So I thought it was a great episode too. If you have any questions for us after listening to this episode, or even just some general feedback about how your assessment went and how your exercise went, please feel free to post it on our community page at Patreon/Holistic Buffet, because we all learn from each other when we share. And thank you so much for joining us today as we talked about self-compassion.
Right, time for some dessert then. All right, so how about a joke for dessert?
Yes, and I am going to be, full disclosure, I was supposed to do the joke this week and I forgot. So now you have to do one.
I got one. All right. There's a guy, he's driving this car, right? And he's in Ireland and he's driving his car. He's on holiday. He's having a great time. And he's got this hire car and it starts to kind of judder. And he goes, oh, no, don't run out. Don't run out of petrol. Petrol seems to be fine. Anyway, the car stops. So he gets out and he pops the lid to see what's up with it. And he's in there and doesn't know a lot about cars. And he's just looking down. And he hears this voice in the distance, right? Check your spark plugs. And he thinks, what the hell? He's looking, I can't see anything. There's no one around. So he goes back and he's checking it and he hears, check your spark plugs. And he thinks, who is that? He thinks, it's not a leprechaun or something, is it? And he can't see it. There's only there's a black horse in a field, right? He's looking, can't see anything. Anyway, so he decides to check the spark plugs. And sure enough, one of the spark plugs is loose. So he tightens it, gets in the car, goes. And he gets to the pub and he's telling the barman this story. He's going, he's looking around and, there's nothing around like this black horse in a field. And the barman's there. He's wiping the glass. He goes, oh, you're very lucky there, sir. He says, why is that? He went, because the white ones know nothing about cars. Thanks, everyone. This is Stephen Carey's Holistic Buffet, where we give you a meze for the mind. Oh, no, you do that bit. A meze for the mind.
A meze for the mind, a banquet for the body, and soup for the soul.
Wasn't so good this week, was it?
That wasn't good.
Soz, better than yours.